Okay, parents, so now that you have the basic understanding of what we're doing with cutting, just a couple of things. I want you to make the activity fun and as part of a craft, because if children are just cutting out shapes and then not really doing anything with them, they're kind of like, why am I doing this? So if we're cutting out a circle, make it that it's part of a craft. You can cut out a circle to make flowers. You can cut out 5 circles to make flowers. You can cut out lines to make rainbows. Typically, when I'm doing craft activities, I'm doing craft activities that are theme based for whatever's going on. So, right now, it would be like a spring or Easter theme. I would have them cut out eggs and then maybe decorate the egg, or have them do flowers or rain clouds or raindrops or anything that has to do with spring and Easter. Again, this gives the activity a functional purpose instead of actually just working on cutting. And typically, children like to have a functional purpose so that they can see what it is that they're creating. If you are doing a craft activity, make sure that you make a model so that they see what the end game looks like. So again, if you're making a flower by cutting out circles, you actually make the flower, and show your child what it's going to look like. And your expectation is that it resembles your flower. Not that it looks exactly like your flower, because that's probably not going to happen. But, so that it resembles a flower. If they're cutting out, circles, just have them cut out the circles the best that they can. And then we're going to glue them together with obviously your direction in order to make a flower. Most of my activities that I do typically have a hand strengthening component. So I like to use hole punches. I like to use scissors, because scissors are also hand strength. They're all bilateral coordination activities. They're teaching some type of functional skill as well as doing some hand strengthening. If you're doing a coloring activity, I like to use small sized golf colored pencils, because that helps a child grade their pressure. They're very similar to crayons. I tend to stay away from markers, because markers are just, they don't have to apply any type of pressure to markers. Markers, you can just go and scribble and it all looks the same. But as far as a crayon or a piece of chalk or a colored pencil, you have to apply pressure, and that helps your child grade the pressure as far as what their color activity. If they're pushing too hard and their crayons are breaking, then obviously there's things that we can do for that. Or if they're not pushing hard enough, then there's things that we can do for that. But again, we're talking more about cutting here rather than coloring, so I want to stick to the topic. And with cutting, I just want you to make the activity functional. So if we're cutting out a circle, make it a circle that belongs to something. If we're cutting out lines, make it lines that belongs to something. Even if you're snipping, oftentimes we'll snip hair off of something. And when I say hair, it's obviously paper, but I've drawn a face on it and, given it hair, and that's what we're snipping. So it doesn't matter what type of activity you're doing. You're making it a functional activity so that it's one part of something else. Hope that helps.